Welcome to the Tech Alliance show. And it's Marina and
Andre, and we are happy to be recording a new episode for you today. And this time with a special guest, Amit Sion, the Chief Revenue Officer at Tax Company, and also a great friend and a long-time colleague of mine. Hopefully, Amit will shed a bit of light on the difference between various types of partner relations. Amit, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Real pleasure to be here chatting with you both.
Fair enough. Why don't you help our listeners get to know you a little bit better? Maybe a couple of words about your background, what you do right now.
Sure. So, my role is Chief Revenue Officer for X Company. X Company is sort of a parent company of three organizations: X Team, XWP, and X5. And I've been in this role for about 5 years. But I've been in IT for about 20 years. So, I studied IT many years ago back at university in Melbourne, Australia. And initially came out as a consultant slash developer and all that. And as I started to work, I found that I enjoyed the elements of connecting with people so much more than sitting in front of the computer. I liked what the computers could do for people, but I found a lot more interesting understanding what people's struggles were, their challenges, and how we could find solutions either with software or with development services to assist them. So from that, I gravitated towards pre-sales to marketing and then landed in a sales role, which I never would have thought I would enjoy. I thought it'd be sampling it for a little bit to see what it's like to learn before I go back into marketing, which I love. And then completely embraced it and found it quite addictive and broke a lot of the misconceptions that people have about sales. And from that, I had very successful steps in sales career leading up to the CRO role, which allows me to be heading up the marketing and sales for several years across our XWP business. And from this year, focusing specifically on X Team.
wow. I must say you have an impressive experience because you started your career as a consultant and work as an account manager and you tried so many positions and now a chief revenue officer and I bet you know everything about client and partner service. By the way, are there any peculiar differences in working with clients and working with partners?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a really good question, and sometimes people misrepresent the two words, and they would call every client a partner, and it is different. So I really see a great importance in a client. What is a client? A client is someone that is you're providing a software or a service in exchange for commerce, right? So there's a transaction to the relationship, and we like to say yes, but we're a partner because we're in this together. Yes, we are, and yes, we care and all that. But the reality is that one is paying and one is providing something. So it is a client. A partner, I always see as someone, two organizations where you're both trying to achieve something together, and there's not necessarily a transactional relationship. The lovely thing is when you can have both happening together. And we had that with Google working through with Andre for many years, where we were delivering services to Google as a client, like they were our client, and we were building technologies for them with web stories and AMP and all that. But then we started to speak about, okay, these things that we're developing, how do we make sure that people adopt them? At that point, once we started having conversations like that, then it transitioned to being not just a client relationship, but a partner relationship. Because then we were talking about how do we work together to promote these solutions to get adoption. And there's no financial benefit of that. That is something that two parties are working towards the same action. That's really how I've always defined the difference between partner and client in my head.
I just want to add to what Amit is saying that the certainly relationships can transform. And therefore, when we talk about the differences between clients and partners, I don't think we need to think about them necessarily as irreconcilable. They are more maybe different sides of the same coin. Sometimes a partnership can transform itself into a client relationship for a while, right? If that's what's necessary. Therefore, maybe, yeah. So I think the important part here is not to say, well, I mean, certain tools and certain practices are not applicable here and applicable there. it's probably just more important to recognize what stage of the relationship you're at and what do you want to emphasize more. Like, is it the clarity of the transaction, or is it this longer term goal that Amit was mentioning before? So yeah, I think I would really subscribe to what you're saying.
Something that I think is consistent for both, and why sometimes we confuse the term clients with partners, is that in order for these to be successful, the most important thing for you to think always is, what can I give, more than thinking about what can I get. And if you come with that sort of mentality, with that sort of approach, then it will become a wonderful partnership, a wonderful client relationship. It'll become a friendship because you're thinking of them first, and people recognize that and they appreciate it. And I've always found that whether it be partnership or client relationship, I search for friendship, because with friendship, you're actually thinking of the other side's needs. And that creates a bond that lasts for years.
That's so true. That's so true. And in fact, you know, I'm particularly delighted to know that this is true, because this is exactly where how our professional relationships with both of you have grown for me. So, you know, I couldn't agree more.
Right. And okay, let's go deep into the topic. When I was between jobs and I was scanning job offerings, I was deeply confused because there are so many similar positions like sales managers, business developers, account managers, eventually partner managers. And all vacancies are so similar and so different. And sometimes it looks like even the companies don't understand clearly what is the difference. So, since you have a lot of experience in working in different positions, how could you describe these roles and what are the distinctions?
Oh, absolutely. And you're right, Marina. Sometimes they're misused, and people would go across them from one phrasing to the other. With a partner manager, so they would be responsible for the different partners of the organization. So, not specifically trying to gain a client relationship from the organization, but looking after the partners that are important to the organization. So, for example, when I was focusing on XWP and its growth, a big element was, yes, managing the clients, but separately managing the partners. So its partners were predominantly the hosting companies. So being a WordPress company, was working with WordPress VIP, with Pantheon, with WP Engine. And there was a responsibility of a person to make sure that those partnerships were strong, because those partnership leads to client relationships. So the partner manager is responsible for ensuring that there's a mutual engagement, mutual benefit. And then when it leads to sales opportunities with clients, then it goes to the other side, where the account manager or the salesperson. Now, when it goes to the other side, that's where it gets a little murky, because there's predominantly two types of roles. And a simpler way to put it is that there's hunters and there's farmers. And hunters are people who are good at going after new business. They like the hunt of engaging with organizations for that initial phase and wanting to bring a new logo to the company. Whereas a farmer likes to build long-term relationships and watch it and nurture it and grow it and all that. At least that's the way that we're theoretically taught it when we enter this realm. Personally, I've always enjoyed both, because I find that if I'm going to present a vision to a new organization and say to them, when we work together, this is what we will build together. It will be this amazing structure and will look like this and will look awesome and all that. If I've sold that vision, I don't feel comfortable then walking away from it. I want to be there through the duration, so that they can always turn to me and say, hey, this is the vision that you sold us. Where is it? So I want to be held accountable for that. So I enjoy both the start and the continuation of it. The other reason why there's different terms for it is because there's a dirty word amongst all those. And the dirty word is sales, because so many people fear the word sales. When you hear someone's a salesperson, you get bad images in your head of someone who's a used car salesman who's going to try to trick you or rip you off and take things away from you. So we create all these terms around it. Oh, he's an account manager. He's an account executive. He's a business development manager. He's an account director. All these terms are used to try to hide the word sales, because sales is dirty and scary. So we have to hide away from it. I was for a very long time a customer account manager, and I was doing so well in that they wanted to promote me, but they wanted to keep me selling because I was doing well in it. So they add, you know what, Amit, we're going to add the word senior onto it. So you're now a senior customer account manager. And I thought that was really neat until I got the business cards printed up and I showed them to my brother. And he said, Amit, you know what the abbreviation of a senior customer account manager is? Scam. They just gave you the title scam. And I thought that was the biggest joke, that all my life I'm trying to express to people that I am genuine, I am real, I am in it for you. And suddenly I'm walking around with the title of scam, which was quite a funny accident that happened.
Oh dear. While we're speaking about the different types of managers, I want to ask one question. Do I understand it in a correct way that you, being a chief revenue officer, still perform the role of a partner manager with Google, right?
Yes, that's an element of it, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wonder, how do you combine these roles and why do you combine these roles?
So something that I've learned, uh, and I'm still learning, is how to delegate certain elements. So as you grow in your career and you suddenly have more and more people that work for you, you have to learn to delegate, to entrust others to do. That's sometimes the reason why I say still learning is because it's a difficult thing to do. Not because you don't trust people, but if you're good at your job, you tend to love it. And it's hard to let go of certain things. So I find that there's elements that I'm able to delegate and pass on to others, and certain things that it's too hard. You just love it, so you hold on to those elements. And Andre and I have been doing the partnership management through my different roles and changes over the years, and we'll meet every 2 weeks and always have a million things to talk about, no matter the change in roles, because of the passion for the job.
I see.
I would also say it's quite interesting. But from my perspective, it's quite interesting how this has developed, because I think, and it fits in hopefully into what I wanted to discuss with you next as well. But before we get into that, it's that over the course of the years that we've known each other and worked together, sometimes we had an explicit goal in mind. I think, well, we all, like, to be fair, we always try to have an explicit goal in mind. In fact, dear listeners, this is a very good recommendation. Always have an explicit goal in mind to what you're trying to do. However, sometimes that goal might be less easy to define. And I think there were periods, and there are periods in our particular partnership, when there might not be an immediate project that we are working on. We might have one or two things that we would like to see if they're possible, and therefore we're exploring them. But it's not like we're constantly delivering a specific objective. Sometimes we are. Sometimes we have a project or a joint experience that we're trying to do, or maybe even like a specific piece of software that needs to be built. And then it's clearer, right? Maybe that's even that. I don't know if that veers more into the realm of sales, because then, you have potentially a contract, and terms and obligations doesn't necessarily preclude it from being a partnership. But I think what made our relationship special, and probably what got you stuck with me, is that even when we felt like, okay, well, right now there is nothing on the table, but we're not going to leave the table, and we'll probably until we come up with something that we can put on the table. I can't say that you can always count on having this kind of a partnership with someone. Very often it's serendipitous and depends on the people. So definitely keep that in mind. Companies don't build partnerships; people build partnerships. So certain things only emerge if you invest into the personal relationship as well, and you're ready to do it. But then, if you're prepared to make this investment and moderate it, of course. I mean, talked about delegation, so yes, definitely think about what you want to delegate. But you can, if you're prepared to make that investment, it sets you up for very interesting payoffs in the end that are otherwise impossible. If you're continuously just looking for the next transaction, you're less likely to come up with the next big thing.
There's so many nice stories with the years of partnerships that we've had together, because what we do is we'd have a Google Doc between us connected to the meeting that we go over, okay, where are we tracking with these different elements? We've got these different ideas that we're working through. There are different phases of projects and things like that. But then, as I said, like, you build a friendship. And there was this one time I was in Poland and connecting up with Andre via our Google Meet calendar. And I said, oh, Andre, look, I know we've got the agenda. I know we get through it, but I just want to show you this really cool thing. It's completely separate. It's not connected to all our WordPress projects that we're working on together. But through our X team work, we're doing this thing where we're building something with augmented reality. And we're doing this for this university in Australia. And it's just It's just cool. I want to show it to you because it's cool. And Andre said, yeah, show it to me. I showed it to him. And then he said, well, actually, let me connect you with this team at Google that's building things in WebXR, and let's see if there's interest there. So then Andre connected me to Sam Drazen there. I showed him the tech, and he's very excited. He said, oh, would you mind using this new tech that Google's working on called WebXR? And then I showed it to the university and I said, you have the opportunity to be one of the first organizations in the world to use this. And they were like, wow, we could be the first ones to use this. So we changed our tech. We started to use this. We built it up and they were so excited that they were getting to use latest technology. Google was so excited that, we've got a nice big university who's going to be a big showcase of it. And we were delighted to be in the middle to making it happen and then culminating to having the opportunity to present this at the Chrome Dev Summit. And all that from just, hey, Andre, I want to show you something cool. So sometimes there's a little magic that happens when you just go and step just a little bit outside the agenda just to show things that you're passionate and excited about.
Exactly. It is so important to build personal relations. And by the way, does X company have any other partnerships with other companies? Who is in charge? Is it you, or do you have special managers or
Yes, it's with me currently, but it's something that I'm considering hiring someone specifically to the partner manager role. Because what I've been, as a delegating, so I've been able to promote VP of Sales this year because we have a group of sales team members who are amazing, who I love to meet with every week, but I just don't have the time in the calendar. So I promoted a VP of Sales who takes charge of that, and likewise with marketing, and there's a team there. And I see such importance to marketing, to partnerships, that I've been retaining it myself and building it up. But I see that there's enough of a flow of the partners that I might need to hire someone explicitly to be the partner manager at the next stage. It's again, it comes back to that element of, I love it so much, but I need to be able to delegate it some.
Well, you heard it here first, people. X company might be hiring, and it's going to be one of the most exciting positions you ever heard about.
It is quite a important role. I got to tell you, so we had this position, just speaking very frankly, where with one of our business with XWP, where it was when I joined, it was quite at a low point. Like it didn't have a lot of clients happening. It really the work had dried up. What I did was I focused on the partnership and focused on giving before receiving, and like, because I asked the salesperson who was there reporting to me, I said, like, what's going on? Why don't we have a lot of business? And he said, well, the partners aren't giving us anything. It's like, I said, you can't wait by the phone for the partner to give to you. So what we did was we said to the partners, how can we be the best agency for you? What would be of benefit to you? Once we started asking that question, then it created some motion. And that led to the partners giving us business. And it became the best source of revenue for the company, more than investing in LinkedIn ads or in any sort of advertising or anything like that. It was focusing on the partners. So it is a strong element that companies should pay attention to. But it's an element that once it gets to a certain phase, yeah, you do need to nurture it and to have people in there for. But I'll have to let go of it at some point.
so when the company put more attention to forging long-standing relations with the clients and partners, it grew, and this attitude helped the company evolve, right?
Absolutely, dramatically. So, for example, we would do a project with a client, and rather than the usual thing of doing a case study, we say, there was problem and we as X team or XWP came to the rescue and we fixed it, because that's the usual case study thing. But what we would say is there was a problem and us, together with WordPress VIP, Pantheon, WP Engine, whichever the partner was, together with Google's great technology, came and fixed it. Once we started doing that and talking about promoting the great work of the others involved, it helped the case study firstly be more interesting, also be more informative, more value, because people just recognize blatant advertising. If you say there was a problem and we were amazing, we fixed it, no one's interested in reading that. But if you say, hey, look at this awesome organization, the client first, promote the client. Look at the wonderful things that they do. And we had the honor of helping them elevate. But we couldn't do this on our own because we don't do the hosting. So for that, we brought this partner. And we couldn't know about this great tech unless we knew about it from Google, who we were developing it with them. So through the power of building web stories and the hosting with this great organization, we were able to support this radio station in reaching more people than ever they could have before, because they produce great content. So when you tell a story like that, everyone is a hero within it. And when you do that, it's of benefit for all the people involved also to share that. So suddenly your story is not just shared by yourself because you're the only one that looks good. Everyone looks good in it. It's more interesting, and it has a lot more of a flow as to how many people it reaches.
Spot on. Spot on. I mean, truer words have never been said on this podcast because we have probably not discussed this before. Just a couple of things left for us to discuss. One, I think it flows quite naturally from what we've been talking about up to now. But in your opinion, what do you think? Is there a shift? Could we talk about a shift happening in sort of longer term partnerships becoming more relevant now? Or has it always been the case, like even back in the industrialization days? Is it just a perception? Like, what's your take on this?
It feels like a very small world to me, and if you go in that mentality, what I said before about the hunter, where things are transactional. And I've met salespeople who were like that, who were amazing at the hunter role, but they would sell and then want to get out as quickly as possible because they want to sell to the next thing. And when they do that, they don't build a name for themselves. All they do is they're good at that initial hunt. This was actually the biggest learning for me. I spoke about the challenge of that dirty word sales, is that if you genuinely care about the organization you're trying to help, and you do that by focusing on learning what their challenge is, and then working towards seeing, do we actually have something that can help them? And if not, let's not sell. But if we do, let's present it to them so they can get a full understanding of it. Then you're building that long-term relationship, that long-term friendship, that connection that will not only be that initial transaction, it'll be something where they will think of you and recommend you to everyone that they meet and everyone that leads up. And it makes life easier. It seems so basic and so simple. It's like, do right by people and they will do right by you. I've found that as my sales career continued, if I continued to follow this, then it just got easier because the people that I engaged with in the past will want to help me and will always be recommending me and introducing me to things. So it just had that. There's a great book about the flywheel effect. It grows and grows on one on top of the other because people appreciate what you've done for them in the past and want to support you through to the future.
Right, and that's eternal. I would say maybe I guess what I'm taking away from your answer is that it's an attitude that we could have adopted 1,000 years ago, now, and 1,000 years from now. And there will always be people who are more or less attuned to it. And nothing bad we can say about people who have a very hunter centric mindset and they can deliver great results. But there is something to be said to maybe diversify either your own portfolio if you are just working on yourself, or if you're listening to us as part of a company, maybe diversifying the portfolio of your company in terms of the approaches that you take to the market and to your ecosystem.
Absolutely. It's there's room for both. I've always found that I've enjoyed the long-term focus of it, the ability to think beyond this initial element, this initial thing that we're doing. And I don't know, it makes it feel more worthwhile. You're personally invested when you care.
We decided to ask all our guests one question. What is the biggest problem in your field? This question is inspired by a famous mathematician, and I guess that our listeners remember our first episode where we explain the whole concept. So, Amit, what is the biggest problem in your field?
I think that it's something that I've always struggled with and will always struggle in my career. It's something I spoke about before about sales being a dirty word. It's that because people know that you're in sales, and it doesn't matter if you're like in partnerships, in new accounts, existing accounts, my role as CRO, there's an element where you're not starting at zero when you meet someone. You're starting at a negative. Because when they know that you're in sales, they think, you've got something to gain from me. So I don't know you, but I already don't trust you. So you have to build up a trust that goes starting from negative, working your way forward to making a connection. And it's a very complicated thing, because if people that know me would know, like I'm the worst poker player. My kids will always be able to get anything out of me. My face tells everything. I am an extremely honest and transparent person. But if you don't know me, if you're just meeting me for the first time, oh, you're in sales, you must be trying to trick me. You must. So the biggest problem is to get past that. Because in order to build a relationship, in order to have a conversation where you're trying to inform someone of what you do, there needs to be trust. So I would definitely say that the biggest problem is to get over that negativity, that wall, that conception that just because there's an element of sales in your role that you are trying to abuse it, or you're trying to trick someone, you're trying to get something out of them. So that's something that I find is the challenge to go through.
What an answer! What an amazing answer! I mean, I think it. Well, yes, it is a little bit. First of all, it resonates. I wonder though, and because you're making me think now, Amit. We haven't like it's. I'm so surprised that we haven't talked about it. We should meet in person more often. But I wonder how come we never discussed this in person? Because now I'm thinking, and this will probably spill over way beyond this episode. So I'll wrap myself short. But what is it that we can do? And we should. Now becoming a bit of a mission of mine to change the perspective of the world on why sales is not such a bad thing, and where we wouldn't be very far if people weren't trying to tell us what we need in our lives. But fair enough. We'll come back to that in a couple of 100 years and see if that has modified itself at all.
I had that misconception as well. Like, I had this thing where I said, I would never fit for sales. Like, this is totally not for me. I remember in my early 20s when I was moving from, consulting to marketing, and there was this role for sales. I really was doing it just to learn a bit. And I wanted to be there for a couple months because I said, how could I possibly fit for this? I'm not a, slick, fast talking person who, will take you like for drinks and all that. I don't like drinking wine or coffee, which is terrible things for sales. I'm not good at golf. I don't like talking sports, all the things that you're supposed to apparently have as a salesperson. And I genuinely care for people and would not feel comfortable doing anything wrong by them. I wouldn't be able to look in the mirror. I thought I'd be terrible at sales. But I had to learn that I call it a sales profession. And the people that I've mentored and supported through, I say to them, like, there's this thing that my father taught me about, your word is your bond. And if you hold that true, then that is critical for you. That if you do wrong by someone, then your word, your name, your brand is diminished. So if that's more valuable to you than money, then no sale is worth it if it's not genuine. I think there's a lot of room for that. I'm sure not everyone is like that, but like I've worked with some amazing salespeople, and they hold that true.
I mean, you've certainly been dropping some major wisdom bombs on the show tonight, so thank you for that. And remember, listeners, your word is your bond, whether you're in sales or not. It's a good maxim to have in life. But we're coming up on time, and we should probably start wrapping up at some point soon. Marina, do we have one last question for Amit?
Right. So, Amit, any book, podcast, any suggestions for professional or personal growth for us or for our listeners?
Yeah. So I've listened to and read a lot of books on sales, podcasts. I've just devoured it because I find it quite fascinating. I think everything you do, you should be really passionate about. So I quite enjoy learning, and everything you get something from it. When I think about this, my standard answer is usually quite a common book, which is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a very like well-known big bestseller book. The big elements for me with it was about the importance of listening, and that so often people are so focused on their next thing that they're going to say that they forget to actually listen. And so much of my role is about listening, because you need to listen to understand whether what you have is even of benefit. So you need to understand what the challenge, what the problem, what the thing the person's looking to do. But if I can break it and step away from books a little bit, there's things that have made a big impact for me. One is the biggest one, actually. The owner of the company, a good friend of mine, Dave Rosen, and I, when we studied at university together, and when we finished, two poor uni students, we pulled a whole lot of all the cash that we had, and we signed up and went to Tony Robbins' 4-day seminar, which was crazy expensive for us. And we could have bought a whole lot of video games and things with the money that it cost, but it was life changing. So at age 21, just finishing university, we went to this 4-day seminar. And Tony Robbins, very well known and seen as that positivity guru. But there was so much that I learned there about how to treat people right, how to listen, how to interact with other humans, and I've carried that all the way through. So there's a lot of things that I speak to my children about, to my staff about, that I've learned from there. So it's quite amazing to have that experience, and he still does a lot of that today. He's got so much books and content. So I'm a big fan of his because it had such a positive impact on my life. And then a silly one, the Rocky Balboa film. He says a line to his son that I love, and I've got a poster of it in my den where it says, "It ain't about how hard you hit; it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." And I think this is so much, if you're in the sales role and all that, is because I've been very successful in sales, but when people go, "Oh, well, you hit your target again and again, exceeded," yeah, but you should see how much I've lost. It's about having the resilience to get up. So being successful, being a winner, is to know that you will get knocked down a lot of times, being able to brush yourself off and pick yourself up and keep going. So continue to keep moving forward.
Wow. Amit, thank you so much.
I genuinely always look forward to my meeting with Andre every 2 weeks, and we've both met on Google Meets for the last 5 years, but also met in many different countries over the years with different WordCamps and conferences that we've coordinated as well together. And it's such a pleasure to meet you as well, Marina, in this conversation. So thank you both for having me on. It's been an honor.
Yeah, I'm really happy we had the bright idea to have you on, man. I did not expect to be disappointed, and you certainly exceeded. Well, I think many thanks to the listeners and everybody who's been with us today on today's episode of the Tech Alliance podcast with Amit, Andre.
And Marina.
Please subscribe. Find us wherever you get your podcasts from. Don't forget to follow us on X, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay tuned. Links are below.
Catch you next time on the tap.